Hello, welcome back into the LFC Transfer Room. My name's Jack. Today's video is an opposition preview. Joined by Matt Woosnam of The Athletic, we're breaking down the match against Crystal Palace's Liverpool and their 10-day wait between matches in the Premier League. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let's get into things. So kicking things off, Palace had an unorthodox preseason, and Matt breaks down the issues that has led to as they enter back into competitive play.
It hasn't been a particularly promising pre-season for Palace, mainly because of the disruption caused by two teams. Essentially, one half a team went out to Australia and Singapore, and half the team stayed back in the UK. A lot of the players that stayed in the UK were quite important players, the likes of Wilfried Zaha, Mark Gay, Eberechi Eze. They stayed behind. Michael Elise's injured. So to be honest, it was a pretty disruptive pre-season. Patrick Vieira agreed with that and said that it wasn't ideal at all, both tactically, well, mostly tactically. The argument went that the two lots of players would get more fitness because they played more games. I'm not sure I quite buy that. Playing against lesser opposition as well. It just wasn't a very good preseason. It's very disrupted, and I don't think that helped anyone.
And in terms of the business done by Palace to try and change things around, Matt breaks down what moves they've made in the window to try and add to what was a strong season last year for Patrick Vieira's men.
Yeah, so their main signing's been Czech Decore from Lens. A facilitator in midfield who plays in the sort of holding role, but is very technically gifted and capable. He was very good at Lens. He's very highly rated. His signing was one that took a lot of people, and a lot of people felt was an excellent one. So I think he's been the main signing. I think he's like the fourth highest paid in terms of transfer fee that Palace have ever paid. So there'll be a weight of expectation on his shoulder, but I think he will be able to deal with that. I think Patrick Vieira said that he'd been captain, or not captain, so he played in that sort of defensive midfield type role since he was 18, and that's a really difficult role to play at such a young age. So I'm sure he'll be able to come in and cope with that. They've also signed Chris Richards, a defender from Bayern Munich. He can sort of play centre back or right back. He uses both feet really well, actually. He played against Brighton in Palace under 21 game, and it was really interesting to see him use both feet almost interchangeably. But in terms of the only actual real first team starting signing, Czech Decore is the only one so far. They did sign Sam Johnston to sort of provide cover and competition for Vicente Guaita in goal, and Malcolm Ebowe on the wing. They signed him from Derby in an opportunistic move, but one that they beat Man United to his signings. So there's certainly very high hopes for him, and Vieira's blocked him from going out on loan, so he will be involved in the squad this season. But to be honest, it's been mostly squad players adding depth and versatility to the squad, which isn't a bad thing. But Palace still need quality and a couple more players.
Palace will end this weekend of matches on Monday at Anfield, but they kicked off the first weekend of the Premier League taking on Arsenal in that Friday matchup. Fell 2-0 in that one to Mikel Arteta's men, and Matt breaks down the issues that plagued them in their season opener.
They started the game terribly. The first sort of 20 minutes or so, they were really poor. They completely looked out of shape, out of just a bit wounded, I suppose, from that disrupted pre-season. In my opinion, Arsenal were kind of all over them. Then, as the game wore on, particularly in the second half, they looked much more comfortable. They were able to sort of attack more. They created a couple of chances. Vieira has said that they should have scored one of those chances at least, which obviously anyone who watched that game would see that Eberechi Eze sort of one-on-one with Ramsdale. He sort of telegraphs his effort too much and doesn't quite get the right purchase on it to curl it round him. So, that was disappointing. They conceded from a set piece. That was a problem for them last season. Something like 41% of their goals conceded last season were from set pieces. I think it was actually their lowest ever goals conceded in a Premier League season as well. So it's quite a lot of their goals were from set pieces. Vieira said that that needs to be addressed. Um, but yeah, I think the good was that they did create some chances. Joachim Andersen was absolutely brilliant in defence, mainly on the ball. To be fair, he's such a good passer of the ball. He sort of loves a diagonal cross-field pass, and that's really important when you're under pressure, especially at the back. Trying to when you can't necessarily play out under pressure from the opposition, a high press, which obviously that's going to happen. Anderson's really good at giving you that out ball, so that was really good. But other than that, there weren't any real standout good things. But overall, I think Vieira was probably relatively content with the performance, at least in the second half, if not the first.
After dropping points against Fulham in their last match, which Liverpool would have felt should be a comfortable victory, there will be no false assurances that this is going to be a difficult match, and Matt breaks down potential threats Palace might pose for Liverpool.
I think what I said before about Anderson, actually, I wouldn't say that's the biggest threat, but that's certainly, if you weren't expecting it, then that's perhaps what I'm sure that the Liverpool analysts would have clocked that easily. Everyone will have done, but if you're a sort of casual fan who doesn't really know much about Palace, then you know Anderson is going to be the sort of hang on a minute, wait, where's he come from? What's this all about? So I think he will be a threat in some ways, but primarily it'll be from the flair players, the attacking flair players, Wilfried Zaha, Eberechi Eze, those two, if those two can do what they do, if Zaha is up for it, which I'm sure he will be, he always is, then that is important, and that's what they will need to make the most of. Zaha will almost certainly start on the left, can come inside. He's got quite a free role, so I guess it's just disrupting Liverpool's rhythm. If they can do that, then they'll be successful. Whatever that means, like draw or at least score a goal. Like I think scoring goals is obviously important, but it's something that I'm not overly confident on at the moment. But we'll see what happens. But certainly, Eberechi Eze and Wilfried Zaha are the two main threats, with Anderson's balls out from the back. Really important, and obviously Mark Gay's very good at bringing the ball out, and Chet Decore's that facilitator that allows the likes of Eze to go forward more. But you know, Decore only just came in and hasn't played with these guys a lot, so it's not certain that he'll have quite the same impact maybe now as he will later on in the season. But Palace have got some threats, and we'll see what happens.
Now, conversely, Matt mentioned earlier the very interesting 41% of Palace's goals conceded last season came from set pieces. Liverpool's aerial dominance and success at corners last season may be an interesting spot of threat. What other areas of access could Liverpool find in that match against Palace?
It's probably the fullbacks, even though Tyreek Mitchell did really well last season, got an England call up, and both Joel Ward and Nathaniel Klein have really stepped up capably and competently on the right. I think just the way Palace play lends itself to being slightly open on the flanks. You've got Wilfried Zaha on the left, and as much as he has improved in tracking back and defending, he's not naturally a defensive player. So inevitably, that's going to put pressure on Mitchell. I mean, the goal, I think it was Arsenal's second goal. I think it was. It was. Yeah, definitely Arsenal's second goal. Sort of kind of came down that side with Mark Gay ended up heading into his own net, but I think that's the main area of sort of threat that Liverpool may well choose to exploit, especially with the pace and the skill and the technical quality that they've got. Again, not that either of those fullbacks are slow, but I just think that is the biggest area. But then again, they may well, Palace didn't really have much of a midfield against Arsenal, so it could come from either way. But I think primarily they may get more joy down the flanks, at least initially.
Thanks, Matt, for some great analysis there. Make sure you go to the link in the description to find some of his work. We're going to end the video with some team news and some predictions for this match in terms of Liverpool's 11. What's very interesting is that there have been some big changes in terms of last time out for Liverpool. Thiago picked up an injury, 4 to 6 weeks, hamstring issue in that match against Fulham in the second half, so he's not going to be available for selection. Naby Keita reportedly back in training after having an illness that kept him out of action against Fulham. Kostas Tsimikas also back in action in training, available for selection in the match. I would say it was a big debate in one of our past streams in the transfer room about what our midfield should look like for this match against Palace, what I would pick, and what I expect to happen is slightly different. I'll go with what I expect to happen. I think Alisson remains a spot in net, Trent at right back, and actually Joel Matip also picking up a small injury issue, so it'll be Joe Gomez playing in that right center back position, Virgil van Dijk in the left one. I think Robertson will maintain his position at left back, Fabinho at defensive mid as well. I expect Henderson to maintain his spot in the 11 as that right-sided 8. I would hope that Keita plays in that left-sided 8, and I'm going to project that he does play after coming back from the illness. And then a front 3, I think they should make a big change. They should put Nunez up front instead of Firmino. I thought he had a very poor match against Fulham, and it was just a night and day difference when you brought Nunez on for that second half. So I think it should be Salah, Nunez, Diaz as that front 3. Let me know if that's your predicted front 3, and let me know your predictions for the match down low, and make sure you check out Matt's work in the link in the description down below. I've been Jack with an opposition preview. We'll have these every week, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and have notifications on so you'll have all the inside information you need ahead of Liverpool's matches all season long. Until next time, I've been Jack. Take care.